It's AFEX time now, commodities market. That's where we're going to now. We first of all give you a summary of how the market traded between September the 19th to September the 25th. And we can say that in that week we saw mixed performance across key indicators. Turnover fell by 6.10%, closing the week at 3.86 billion naira from 4.31 billion naira. Number of volumes traded was, however, up 2.61%. Number of deals traded rose 0.41%, closing at 214 from 152 in the last trading week. The AFEX commodity index witnessed an increase of 0.06%, while the AFEX export index maintained its stance at 229.25. The volume of contracts traded witnessed an increase in volume across maize, soybean, paddy rice, and sorghum. Now, let's look at the prices across exports. We can tell you for cashew nut, it was a green movement, 3.41% up, adding 19 naira 20 kobo to close at 581 naira 90 kobo for a kilogram of cashew nut. And then we see cocoa also recovering from about 2 weeks drop. 0.23% is what it added. That's 4 naira 48 kobo to close at 1,972 naira 37 kobo for a kilogram. Next is paddy rice, remaining unchanged for the week, still closing at 456 naira 13 kobo for a kilogram of paddy rice. That means if you added some money there, you may not have made no loss and no gains. Same with soybeans, still closed at 377 naira 88 kobo at the close of trade on September the 25th. Sesame is in that category, closed at 1,247 naira 57 kobo for a kilogram. No movement also in that space, in the sesame space. Ginger, 989 naira 83 kobo for a kilogram. Also, no movement for the week ended September the 25th. And maize is, however, on the flip side. It lost 13.36% and closed at 347 naira 10 kobo for a kilogram. We are back to the space of no movements. Wheat, 440 naira. And then we see a lot of things happening in the global space when it comes to wheat. But for Nigeria, we did not see any movement. Do remember that AFEX will always tell you to go to their website and follow them on their handles. You can get more information on all that they have to talk about. So you want to find out how you can jump on the commodity platform, you can always do that. It's still AFEX time. Now we have discussing the FETC that forms a part of AFEX Innovative Financial Instrument. It was created to meet alternative investment needs, and the exchange-traded commodity, the ETC, we just told you the movement right there, has historically outperformed inflation and perfectly hedged against currency devaluation, therefore making it a strategic portfolio diversification asset for impressive investment returns. Perhaps you want to break that down and know how it concerns you or how you can get involved with that. We have Zara Dogo joins us virtually. She's a head market growth AFEX, and to tell us more about this. Hi, Zara. Happy holidays to you.
Good morning. Same to you.
So what has been the key standout between last year and this year in terms of, you know, this issuance and performance?
So just to start, the FETC means Fair Trade Exchange Traded Commodity. And it's basically a basket of different commodities that have different allocations, making up the FETC instrument as a whole. And just looking at some of the things that happened in 2023 as against 2022, the first thing that was quite obvious for this instrument was the issuance size, as well as the number of investors that played in this space this year. So this year we saw an issuance size of over 2 billion, and we saw a lot of investors playing in this space, mainly because we had the conventional FETC, and we also had the Sharia compliance FETC, allowing for ethical investors to come in and play in this space. Also, this is the third issuance that we are doing. So we've had a lot of experience in managing this portfolio, and we have a better understanding of how to allocate commodities within this basket. So there was a lot of experience this year, which gave rise to better returns for this instrument. So
Yeah.
for FETC 2023, FETC 1 did a return of about 48% in 9 months, and FETC 2 did a return of about 54%. Comparing this to 2022, we saw FETC 1 do a return of about 31%, whilst FETC 2 did about 20%. But this is also due to the resilience of the commodities market. I'm looking at the challenging factors that have affected the country this year. So those are some of the trends that we saw pan out in 2023 for the FETC.
So you've talked about those key events and markets circumstances, but how can we say this affected, the overall closing percentage of the FETC?
So we have the annual commodities survey that we release every year towards the end of the year. So you will see that go into the market in December for our investors to read, understand, and look at the forecast for the next year, as well as look at some of the factors that affected the commodities market in the prevailing year. And for the annual commodities survey that we released last year, we emphasized the imbalance in the supply and demand of commodities that were invested. And as a result, we saw opportunities for investors to make superior returns. And also looking at the removal of subsidy that happened earlier in the year, this also caused a rally in the price of commodities. And some of the commodities that, all commodities were affected, but then these commodities were also factored into the FETC instrument. And so for investors that locked in to the FETC instrument at the beginning of the year, they saw outperforming returns at maturity, which was here in September.
So the FETC signals the beginning of the harvest season. What do you see happening in the market going forward?
So just to note, it signals a close proximity to the beginning of the harvest season. So FETC matures towards the end of September. And for most commodities that are listed on the exchange, you will see the harvest season starts towards October and November. And just to answer your second question about what we see for the market, in terms of what we see happening towards harvest season, we expect crops like maize and soybean to give us good performances, mainly because we had a good year. Rainfall was good, the weather was good as well compared to what we saw last year. So for last year, due to the Russia-Ukraine war, the price of fertilizer was up. And we also had flooding affect volumes that came into the market at harvest season. So for this year, we've seen good rainfall, we've seen good weather conditions. So we're expecting the performance of these commodities to do well. And so these two commodities are also factored into the FETC instruments.
So what are our expectations based on this for next year?
So next year, we are definitely expecting a larger size in terms of issuance. We're looking at bigger investors coming in. As I mentioned, returns did about 54% and 48%. So we're expecting more investors to come into this space for the next issuance that will be taken into market. This is also the third issuance that we have done. So we've been able to learn from whatever errors that occurred towards the first and the second issuance. There's going to definitely be better management. We're expecting more investors. We're expecting a bigger size. As I just mentioned, this is the third issuance. So for the first one, which was towards 2020, 2021, that was a size of about 500 million. For the second issuance, that was over $1 billion. For the third one that matured a few days ago, that was over 2 billion. So we're definitely expecting a larger size for the next issuance. We're also expecting more issuers to list variants or variations of the FETC on the exchange. And I mean, for investors that were unable to key into the FETC at the beginning of this year, we're definitely taking it to market again sometime towards December, January. So you're more than able to play into this instrument once it's open for issuance.
All right, Zara Dogo, thank you so much for giving us that the plans of AFEX for next year, and do enjoy the rest of the holiday.
Very much. Same to you. Bye.